Hey there, how you doing? Charlie Winters here with selections for Friday, the 3rd of February. But first, a recap on the first half of Thursday's selections. There's still one more to run, and obviously we've got a non-runner in the evening bet at Chelmsford. But a fantastic day, although an unlucky day at Southwark. Well, I believe the stake was £8, and it returned. I think it was £64 in total. I may be wrong, but what we've had three selections in the afternoon, two 7-1 winners, and the unluckiest horse of the day, Mumcat, and I think that came third at sixes. If you didn't watch that race, you need to watch that race back. They rode it differently. It was sat last all the way round, and it was going okay. I thought it still had a chance, and then he bumped it along, and it made rapid progress. And I think what it was, he can't get there too soon. I thought he was pulling the horse up with 2 furlongs to go. He really stood up, and I thought, hey, what's going on? What's going on here? And I think the horse was making that much ground that quickly that he was going to get to the front too soon. And I think he was under orders to get there very late. Well, once he'd taken the tug on it or the pull, he then gave it a bit of a flick a bit later on, like with a furlong to go, and got in all kinds of trouble. And I think the trouble was honestly accidental because it looked like the jockey panicked because there were like four horses all of a sudden on top of the horse. And watch it back. I'm not frustrated, but it's like so unfortunate because I didn't see what the bet would have made in total. I didn't work it out, but you're talking a few hundred for definite. And in my opinion, out of all the three horses, even the two that won, Mumcat, with 2 furlongs to go, was the more likeliest of winner out of the three, even though the other two won easily. So that's how I was like gutted I am with Mumcat. Anyway, so to get onto Friday selections, I've got to the point where I can't just give you a lucky 15 or a Yankee. So I've gone for doubles, trebles with a number of selections. I shall explain the first selections and then just the rest of them. I've got a bit of a liking for them, but also I think they're overpriced. So let's get into the first race, which is possibly the most interesting. Right. So the 25 pence each way doubles, and I believe it's 10 pence each way trebles, but I'll get to those in a minute. But they're all the same selections. So in the 10 past 1 at Catterick, paying 5 places instead of 3. I've left the prices. I've gone for Desiree Girl, I've gone for Perfect Man, and I've gone for Brickadank. They are all trained by Mickey Hammond. Well, Mickey Hammond had 2 in this race last year. One that ran okay and finished around the places, and one that came on place but wasn't beaten too far. I think they've all got a sneak for all different kinds of reasons. But you may be aware, I've been hearing about this for like all too often. And they're coming to 2 furlong. He takes the lead at the last fence. Can this be a winning ride on his last ever ride? I'm sure you've heard that kind of commentary, or on his birthday, or on this kind of thing. Well, the rider or the jockey of Perfect Man, it's his last ever ride, and he is retiring after this. And to be fair, I've never even heard of him. Aidan McDonald, I think his name is. It was actually in the Racing Post today. And it's his last ever ride. Well, to be fair, I've never heard of him. I think he claims £10. So obviously he's not ridden that many winners, if any at all. Well, it's a 13-year-old horse, possibly even the horse of last race. Who knows? Well, with Mickey Hammond actually having a couple of decent runners last year, I think you could potentially hear this horse saying, and it's Perfect Man on its last ever appearance under a jockey that's its last ever ride. And who knows? We've seen all these fairy tales in the past, so it's like that's why I've gone for the Perfect Man because I can't really fancy. I think it's got a sneak, but I don't. It's dropped from like 133 from a couple of years ago to like 89 or 98, I think it is. So it's handicapped to win the race, but it's shown absolutely nothing. But those are the three horses in that race, all at big prices, and who knows. So the next selections are in the 250 at Lingfield, paying 4 places instead of 3. And these are horses that are just either too big a price or both horses that I fancy. George Morland and Enough Already. So the next selections are in the 5 past 4 at Chepstow, paying 5 places instead of 3. 2 of them are trained by David Pike. They've had all kinds of wind operations and dropped in Sorry, yeah, dropped in the handicap, wind operations, headgear, all that kind of stuff. They both potentially could run races, both very tasty prices. And Kerry Lee has got a horse in this race as well. She had a race in this last year as well. I think it came third. Well, she's got this horse called Newfound Fame. Well, it's quite highly tried on its last run. It's dropped in distance, dropped in grade, and I think it could get back to, let's say, get back to running well again. Even if it doesn't win, I think it could cracking chance for a place. So those are the selections. So as I said, 25 pence each way doubles. And here they are again, all in 10 pence each way trebles. So you put the bet on all at the same time. So 25 pence each way doubles, 10 pence each way trebles. So let's go on to the next bet. So, right, I'm going to scroll down. So what I've got here, this is just to get rid of the oddments in my account. I'm talking stake-wise, not the bet. The stake-wise is just to scoop up the oddments. So the 31 pence each way doubles and 11 pence each way trebles. So in the 430 at Newcastle, paying 4 places instead of 3. I've taken the price. Don't get me wrong, it could drift, so you might be better off just leaving the price. Bobber T. Connor Beasley's ridden it for the third time, I think now, or third consecutive time. I think they're trying to get a win out of it. It's ran well over course and distance, over the distance, and over further. There's a lot of horses who haven't ran or won over the distance, and this could be a proper course and distance horse that asks questions of many of the others. In the 6:45 at Newbury, 6:45 at Newcastle, paying 4 places instead of 3. I've gone for Gannon Glory and Athol Blair Boy. In my opinion, Gannon Glory is probably the nap of the day. I honestly think it's been crying out for 6 furlong for absolutely ages, and it actually came from behind to run well at Southwell over 5 furlongs last time. And I think the majority of us know that it's very difficult to come from behind at Southwell. Probably not as difficult as it was when it was Fibersand, but it's still hard work at Southwell. So it stepped up in distance over a stiff 6 furlong at Newcastle. And Richard Fahey, decent trainer, and I always think his horses improve when they keep stepping up in distance up to about a mile. So those are those 2 selections. I fancy both of them, but I think Gannon Glory has got a huge chance if it pans out like I'm saying it's going to. So in the next race, in the 7:15 at Newcastle, paying 4 places instead of 3, I've gone for Mutabahi and Enderman. Mutabahi was unbelievably unlucky when I tipped it up at, I think it was 28-1. I think it lost by a short head. Extremely frustrating. And the other selection is Enderman. The reason I've gone for these 2 is there's an awful lot of runners in this race that aren't out and out sprinters. You bear in mind, so these 2 horses have been messed around with, but I think they are suited by 6 furlongs. A lot of the horses in the race have been messed around with, and I think they aren't proper sprinters. So Mutabahi and Enderman. Enderman it's trained by an out and out sprint king anyway, Paul Midgley. He basically only trains sprinters. He gets the odd miler, but all his horses basically are 5 and 6 furlong horses. So those are the bets for Friday. Friday evening, about 8 o'clock, I will be providing the horse racing bets for Saturday and also the football bets for Saturday. Hopefully, it's a bit of a bonanza weekend. I am looking at the moment for Leeds to beat Nottingham Forest. There could be a bit of a tasty price. So, but I will let you know about that tomorrow evening. So, Friday evening. So, it'll be about 8 o'clock when I give you the selection, if not a tad later. So, anyway, fingers crossed for tonight. Fingers crossed for Friday. The very best of luck. Charlie Winters, over and out. Cheers, mate.